Welcome to a brutally cold Detroit and an Edmunds exclusive preview of the Mustang Mach-E, an electric SUV that might yet define the future of the old Motor City. Ford reckons it combines the heritage of the past with the technology of the future. So let's take a peek.
The Mach-E will be badged a Mustang. It's the first time since '64 that the feral pony has appeared on anything other than a coupe or convertible. It's a deliberate ploy. Ford wants you to think of its EV as sporty and desirable, and not just an eco-friendly, hair-shirted alternative. But before we take a look, why not subscribe to our YouTube channel, and be sure to head to Edmunds.com for more on the Mach-E, and for all your car shopping needs.
So the first thing we should talk about is the Mach-E size. It's not as big as you might imagine. It's about the same size as a Ford Escape, or to give you another example, the Porsche Macan. Now Ford has deliberately tried to graft onto this SUV some cues from the Mustang coupe and convertible, particularly here at the rear where you get these kind of horn shoulder line, which gives it some sort of muscularity and sporting presence. And I particularly like what they've done with the roofline. So the bodywork colour extends down here into this fastback, which reminds me slightly of the Lamborghini Urus. But what they've done very cleverly is to create a black roofline which looks almost hidden at first glance, and that makes sure that you've got plenty of rear headroom. This badge is pretty self-explanatory. Mach-E, 4 stands for all-wheel drive, X for extended range. Now this car's sitting on 19-inch wheel rims, which to my eyes look a bit small. This huge sidewall here, well, that's almost old school, and there's plenty of air between the tyre and the bodywork. Apparently the entry-level car will be on 18-inch rims, which frankly must look tiny. If this was mine, I'd want 20s or even 21s. This front end reminds me a lot of the Jaguar I-Pace, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. The I-Pace is a great looking car. But what we will have to get used to is the absence of a traditional grille. Instead, you get this big swathe of plastic and this redesigned pony badge now with added black slatting, and the old nagger's grown a little bit in her old age. Overall though, it's a very kind of slick, sophisticated piece of design. I think Ford's done a great job of taking the Mustang cues and adding them to an SUV, but coming up with a car which retains a degree of sophistication and elegance. I like it. The Mach-E looks expensive, which is just as well, because it ain't cheap. The entry-level car will cost just over $40,000, rising to $65,000 for the Performance Edition. Now, that places it into direct competition with the forthcoming Tesla Model Y, and also puts it up against some really appealing gas-powered alternatives, including the Porsche Macan. You should also note that the similarly sized gas-powered Ford, the Escape, costs from just $25,000. Now, Ford will argue that this car qualifies for $7,500 federal tax credit, and it sort of does, but it's by no means straightforward, more of which later. The technical specification will be pretty familiar to the Tesserati. The range starts off with a single motor at the rear driving the rear wheels and a 76 kilowatt-hour battery pack under the floor. Or you can upgrade to a 99 kilowatt-hour battery pack and add an extra motor at the front to deliver all-wheel drive. Now those with the biggest range anxiety should choose the single motor at the back with the long-range battery pack. Now Ford is bizarrely calling this model the California Route 1 for reasons known only unto them. But if, like me, you like a bit of performance, you can go to the other extreme and have the Mach-E GT Performance Edition, which now delivers 2 motors, all-wheel drive, 459 horsepower, 612 pound-feet of torque, and MagneRide suspension. That vehicle, says Ford, should be good for 0 to 60 in around 3.5 seconds. Now that's not just Mustang GT quick, that's Shelby GT500 quick, which is, well, fabulous. Shame that edition though won't be in showrooms until the middle of 2021. You don't even need a traditional key to access the Mach-E. As long as you've got your phone in your pocket, synced up by Bluetooth, the car will recognise your presence. Then you grab this kind of weird little spoiler thing, push a button and the door opens. But if your phone's run out of charge, there is a old school Ford coding system. So it's kind of like 1990s meets 2019. I'll be honest with you, I really like this interior. I think Ford's done a terrific job of blending new age thinking like this giant central screen with some good old-fashioned common sense. The gear stick, for example, is this rotary knob on the centre console. Column stalks are sensible. There are hi-fi and phone controls on the steering wheel and cruise control over here. The speedo is right in front of the driver, exactly where you want it, and there's a range indicator too. They're not just positioned here in the centre like they are on a Tesla. And it's practical too. There's plenty of space in here for 5 people. There's wireless charging, cup holders, plenty of oddment space. This is a proper family SUV, not some pretentious tool. I love some of the detailing too. There are 3 different drive modes that affect how the car drives and even what kind of artificial sound it makes to keep you in the mood. The optional Bang & Olufsen Hi-Fi introduces this soundbar across the top of the fascia, and there's even a bit of Ford humour. On the speedo it says MPH0 and below that ground speed. You see, Mach-E sounds a bit aeronautical like Concorde. Mach-E, ground speed. Got it? Ford's obviously put a lot of detailed thought into this car. When you open the front, you don't have to mess around with a fiddly catch like you do in a Porsche 911. And there's plenty of room in here for a decent sized bag. It also has a neat drain function, so if you want to fill it with ice and use it as a cool box, you can. Ford's own research tells them that around 50% of potential EV customers are put off by the need to charge their car and anxiety about how that works. The reality of Mach-E ownership is you are going to have to install a 240 volt power supply in your garage to charge it overnight. Now Ford's working with Amazon to make this as simple as possible, but Edmund's advice would be to make sure that you do your homework before you commit to buying the vehicle. Not every garage is compatible, and of course if you rent your property, you're going to have to ask the landlord's permission. Assuming all that takes place though, and you've now got your plug installed, the Mach-E will recharge at a rate around 22 miles per hour. So if you plug it in overnight, you should have around 170 miles of range in the morning. If that's still not enough, Ford is partnering with Electrify America to give you access to a huge network of fast chargers across the US. If you use a fast charger, then you should be able to get 47 miles of range in as little as 10 minutes. So who's going to buy an electric Mustang SUV? Well, Ford's hoping to appeal way beyond the affluent California techie types who traditionally buy Teslas. They think they can appeal to their heartland. People would normally buy gas-powered cars simply by offering them something that's better, faster, more spacious, more desirable. It's a bold strategy.
They also expect most customers to buy rather than lease the Mach-E, which is equally bold. Edmund's advice is generally to lease an electric car for 3 reasons. The technology is constantly changing, they often depreciate faster than a gas-powered alternative, and because leasing makes it easier to bake in the $7,500 federal tax credit. Ford is offering its own version of a lease called Ford Options, so watch out for that. And if you do buy it, remember that you have to claim the credit back on your personal tax return, and even if you qualify, you might have to wait up to 18 months for your money back. Don't think of it as an automatic discount.
Ford freely admits they have a big education job to do with this car for dealers and customers alike. That's why they've launched it a year ahead of it going on sale. But I for one hope they make it. This car is good looking, it has a fabulous interior, the technical specification is very promising, and it's sensibly priced. We'll reserve judgment of course until we've driven it, but at first glance the Mach-E is not only a genuine rival to a Tesla, it's also a genuine Mustang. I didn't expect to say that when I woke up this morning.